welcome. You're locked on to the NBA. My name is Nick Angstadt, host of the Locked On Mavericks podcast, sitting in for Josh Lloyd today, and we've got some great Western Conference hosts to talk to today. First up is Wes Goldberg from the Locked On Warriors podcast, and today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Check out prizepicks.com and use the promo code NBA or go to your app store and download the app today. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. And let me tell you about Prize Picks. Today, I want to tell you about something that made daily NBA fantasy better right now than anything else. Prize Picks is the best NBA daily fantasy prop game on the market. It offers more NBA props than any other daily fantasy prop operator out there. It offers superstar players like Steph Curry, as well as role players like Jordan Poole and, Andrew Wiggins, if you want to call him a role player, whatever you want to call Andrew Wiggins at this point in his career. Prize Picks offers any prop you can think of, from yardage to touchdowns, interceptions, so you can do football and NBA at the same time. You can do MMA. You can do all kinds of different sports at the same time. You can go in there right now, pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on their projections. You can win up to 10 times any entry, and it's just you versus the projected numbers. The odds are in your favor in that case. Go ahead and use the promo code NBA, and you'll deposit $100. They'll match it $100. They'll match it all the way for you, all the way up to $100. So don't hesitate. Check out prizepicks.com. Use the promo code NBA or go to your app store and download the app today. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Also, I want to tell you about DirecTV. It's one of the few ways that I'm watching my local NBA team right now. And I know for some of you, there's some frustration out there. I want to tell you about a simple way that you can get all the entertainment you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before. You can get your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. There's no more juggling remotes, no clutter, and there's no annual contract. DirecTV Stream. Go to directtv.com. Use directtv.com. Get DirecTV Stream. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. All right, let's bring in our first host, Wes Goldberg. Nick Angstadt from Locked On Mavericks, Wes Goldberg from Locked On Warriors, and Locked On Heat. But we are talking about the Warriors today because the Warriors are absolutely dominating right now in a way that I definitely didn't see coming. I don't know if you saw it coming, Wes. 18-2 in the NBA right now. They're the best team in the NBA. 7-game win streak right now. Did you see this coming?
How good the Warriors would be this year? I thought they would get out to a fast start, if I'm being honest, because the way they ended last season, I know that it's hard to take away that much. Typically it doesn't translate. One season to another. If you win, 30 of your last 40, whatever it is. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to do that. You're going to be on that pace at the start of next season. But what they figured out at the end of last year was just how they wanted to play with this new group. And it was mostly these players, Jordan Poole, Juan Toscano-Anderson, all these guys, like figuring out how to play with Steph Curry and kind of elevating that style of play that Steve Kerr has implemented since he got there, right? And so I thought they figured something out, something clicked. And then they went out this offseason and just got guys who could do more of that. Otto Porter is able to space the floor. They brought back Andre Iguodala. You get a guy like Nemanja Bjelica, who is a good player there for center for them, who could space the floor. He's an underrated playmaker at that spot. They just they found out what they wanted to do, and then they doubled down on it. And then you combine that with just this general attitude of, hey, we're back. We're the Warriors. We're sick of being out of the playoffs 2 years in a row. Klay Thompson's coming back, and we're all super excited about that. I thought that they were going to end, and you combine that with a really, really soft schedule to start the season. I thought that it was ripe for a quick start. But then you get really great performances in Brooklyn, Sunday night in LA against the Clippers. Good teams, right? And they just blow those teams out. And they're just playing with a level of confidence. They're playing super hard every single night. They lead the league by far in just cutting to the basket, which is a great indicator of just how hard they are playing under Steve Kerr. All this stuff is right there. This is a team with a mission. There's a little bit of an FU attitude that they have, which you just love. and so I don't know if I anticipated this, but I did anticipate a fast start. But you could just look at the betting odds, right? You bet online, you track the odds, right? Like before the season to now, they're huge. The odds were way better before if you took them early on than if you're taking them now.
It's absolutely insane how good this team has been. We mentioned the record, but there are only 2 losses. Grizzlies earlier in the year in October was a 3-point loss in overtime. And then against the Hornets was a 4-point loss against the Hornets. Just absolutely insane the way that this team has dominated. They're according to Cleaning the Glass, second in the NBA in offensive rating, first in the NBA in defensive rating. I mean, they are just like this dominant team. A lot of people thought that including myself, that the Nets would be this team at the top of the NBA, just dominating and having that FU attitude. Is there something about, is it just Draymond, or what is it about this team that is able to kick that FU attitude into like actual wins and actual performance?
It's Draymond, obviously. He's a big part of it. I think the fact that Draymond doesn't have to, just speaking specific to him, the fact that he doesn't have to mentor these young players anymore. Like, another underrated part of what the Warriors did was not just the player additions, but the coaching additions. They revamped their player development staff, revamped the bench next to and behind Steve Kerr there on the sideline with a bunch of player development guys. So now it's not Draymond being forced to try to get these guys to learn. And they drafted 2 guys in the lottery. James Wiseman hasn't played, but he's coming back. Those are 3 really young guys, but they're not like last year. They asked James Wiseman to be part of the rotation. Now he's not because he's injured, but I think when he comes back, like he's not going to have a nightly role, I don't think. And with Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody, they're not asking them to do stuff. So you've got Draymond Green, instead of having to mentor these guys on the fly, which is something he didn't really want to do, and he embraced it and whatever. You heard like all the coach speak and the reports out there, stuff that I wrote.
Going to go get donuts and stuff, right? Like
yeah, like he does, but he didn't want to do that stuff. He's like, he just wants to play with guys who have been in the league for 8 to 10 years, who know what they're doing on the basketball floor, and he doesn't have to scream at. And so I think that's been helpful, that Draymond Green can just go full tilt Draymond. Steph Curry Sunday had like a really fiery outburst at the ref. He thought he was fouled. He wasn't, but he thought he was fouled. But usually like he's not the guy that complains about fouls, and he's getting really fiery. He's shimmying on sidelines after making threes. Like he's playing with energy. And Steve Kerr, I think, is really energized by this group the same way that Draymond is. I think those 2 guys are way more similar than we tend to think about. But Steve Kerr is a huge competitor. He doesn't really want to deal with all the he wants to win, right? Like I think after 2 years, he's like kind of over the player development stuff. He hires a bunch of coaches to handle that stuff, and now he's got guys who can really play. I think they're all just super fired up.
The revamping the coaching staff is really interesting because we just saw over the weekend in college football, Michigan just beat Ohio State for the first time since 2011. And one of the things that they said that Jim Harbaugh did was revamp this coaching staff and get younger, like just change everybody basically besides himself and get younger to be more relatable, to change the way, because they just kept getting destroyed by Ohio State every single year. And to go in and revamp that, you were like, all right, we're going to change our approach. We're going to get smarter. We're going to get younger. We're going to try that. And I find that really interesting that would work in the NBA as well, especially since these guys are professionals. They've been around. They've had a blueprint for success before. But then this team is so different than what we've seen in the past. I find that really, really interesting.
Yeah, and it was a slow process. It was a slow build, and the job that Steve Kerr had to do over the last couple of years when they were missing the playoffs was not the job Steve Kerr was hired to do. He was hired to take over a team with Steph, Klay, Draymond, and kind of unlock that trio and kind of take them to a greater place than what Mark Jackson had them at. Then Kevin Durant comes in, and it's just a lot of ego management, just getting them through the regular season and just figuring out ways to get past LeBron, basically. And he did a great job at that, obviously. And then Kevin Durant leaves, Steph Curry breaks his hand, Klay Thompson 2 major injuries in a row, all this stuff. And all of a sudden, he's got to figure out, okay, how do I develop guys like Juan Toscano-Anderson, Jordan Poole? How do I get the most out of this new group? What are we doing? We're drafting the lottery 2 years in a row. A very different kind of job. I think he found the right kind of coaches on that staff that he can lean on for that kind of stuff, because Steve Kerr is not a player development guy. He's a culture setter. He's the kumbaya Steve Kerr stuff, right? Like he implements the system, and now he's got guys that can play that system and a coaching staff that can help get the most out of these younger types of players and develop them. Maybe not at a rate where they're able to contribute right away to a championship team, but at a rate that they're hoping that these guys could, 4 or 5 years from now, sort of take the baton from Steph, Klay, and Draymond Green.
And now for these young guys, there's a level of competition that has been set, right? Like, hey, we're winning. Like, this is a train that is moving right now. You can't just jump in and you expect to get 30 minutes because you were the number 2 pick. You were the number 5 pick, right? These guys have to come in and you have to contribute. So I'm going to hold you to this higher standard. So I find that really interesting to see how they're going to respond to that. The big thing I think everyone's waiting for and talking about, and even going into the season, was, all right, this team is fine, but whenever Klay Thompson comes back, blah, 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 blah. What's the latest we know about Klay Thompson? When is he coming back? And then what's the blah, blah, blah? Like, if Klay comes back, then what? Like, what is it after that?
What's the blah, blah, blah is like maybe like the most existential. Like, you could just ask that about everything in life. If you knew what the blah, blah, blah was, you would be in good shape. But the latest on Klay is that he's ramping up into scrimmages and stuff like that. And actually, as of today, the Warriors are planning to send him down to Santa Cruz, their G League affiliate. It's like 2-hour drive south of San Francisco. And this is something that they did with Steph a couple years ago when Steph broke that hand. And right before he was going to come back, they sent him to Santa Cruz for a scrimmage. He didn't play in a game. I doubt Klay Thompson plays in a game.
I was going to say, we're going to see Klay drop 15 threes in a game against like the Texas Legends.
Right. Yeah. I mean, down. We haven't seen. I'd watch Klay Thompson.
That'd be great. I'm in. Yeah. Justin Jackson literally went down to the Legends and dropped like 10 threes in a game. I don't know what Klay Thompson would be able to do in the G League, but
probably about that. But that's the plan, right? Is you have him in a real game type of situation in a scrimmage, and start ramping up that work, right? And so this is something that the Warriors did. And if you look at when they did it with Steph, it was only a couple days after that Steph did that he was on the court. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to be the case with Klay, but it does show, like, I'm not saying it's just going to be 2 days, but it's going to be, we're getting to that point now where it's sooner rather than later. I think everybody's super excited. As far as the yada, 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 I don't know what Klay Thompson does when he comes back. Like, I don't know how much it changes things. I think it helps Steph. When you watch the Warriors now, you've got like 3-4 guys on Steph Curry like all the time. I don't know that you could do that with Klay just because he's Klay Thompson. The Warriors have done a really good job of like this propaganda of here's Klay Thompson making 100 threes in a row. I think like people notice that stuff. Like they're still going to respect Klay from the perimeter. I don't know what he's going to do defensively. I don't know if he's going to be able to attack closeouts off the knee and the ankle. I don't know if he's going to be able to get into the post or even defend the post, having to put weight on that stuff. We'll see, right? But I think the Warriors right now are a title contender. Klay Thompson is obviously helpful, but as far as how helpful, I don't think anybody has that answer until we actually see him. Like I said, he'll help space the floor, but what else, right? We'll have to wait and see.
Absolutely. And we will have to wait and see. There are a couple of new hosts coming for the Locked On Warriors show. I promise you they're coming, but Wes is going to stick in there, and he's hosting Locked On Warriors until they come in there. He's also hosting Locked On Heat, doing double duty over there. So, Wes, thanks so much for joining us, and everybody go check out if you want more Warriors talk or Heat talk.
Thanks for having me, Nick.